with that last demo, you hopefully now have a sense for exactly what Ajax style application development is all about. And in the end, it's not that complex. It's really just asynchronous message passing over HTTP, and it works across browsers as long as you're a little bit careful about how you do things. And it's a really like I've said before, it really opens up a lot of doors for changing the way your web applications interact with clients. Now, that's not to say you should latch onto this and do nothing but Ajax-style development from now on. There's certainly a lot of cases where the traditional postback model makes more sense. It fits the application style that you're building, et cetera. So, you definitely don't want to sort of use Ajax just because it's there. You want to incorporate it into your applications in a way that makes them easier to use and more friendly to clients. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. A couple of things we're going to run into as we start building applications, and things you want to keep in mind before you jump too deep in here. There are some potential pitfalls. One of which is the potential for increased load on your servers. A lot of people think of Ajax as a sort of a lighter weight web technology as opposed to the traditional heavyweight postback style of application. That's not necessarily true depending on how you use it. If you end up doing a lot of asynchronous callbacks in response to user interaction, you might be doing many more round trips to the server than you would have done with a traditional postback style application. And that could add, significantly more load on your servers if you're not careful. So you definitely want to include some stress testing in these applications, try to mimic the client-side interaction so you anticipate any potential load increase that you might incur with this style of application development. Other things you might run into, debugging is going to be trickier as well. Anyone that's done any client-side script debugging will be nodding their heads at this point, saying, yes, it's much harder. We'll have an entire module focused on debugging techniques for client-side applications later. Testing is also an issue, testing with especially across browsers, right? And anytime you're dealing with JavaScript and DOM interaction, you have the potential for building something that is only going to work properly in one browser. And you want to be careful to avoid that if that's of concern to you, and try to make sure that it's going to work across all browsers that your clients might end up using. One other thing that often doesn't occur to people until later is that clients that don't support Ajax will not be able to use the site as is. You're going to have to come up with another story for those types of clients. And today, the most significant client that falls into this category is probably mobile clients. So people accessing your sites over a cell phone or a small mobile device probably will not have full Ajax support. And you need to sort of decide, A, if you care, and B, what you're going to do about it. A lot of applications built today that are Ajax style often have a completely separate implementation to support non-Ajax clients or maybe mobile clients. And that often is what you end up having to do. You could try to take the approach that I took in the last demo, which is have a fallback position. If there's no asynchronous callback mechanism in the client, we sort of fell back onto the postback model. But to be honest, that really only works in some of the simplest cases. And in general, it's not going to be quite that simple. And then the other thing that comes up is we are dealing with asynchronous callbacks as opposed to the traditional synchronous postbacks. And asynchronous, anytime you hear the word asynchronous, that should send off bells in your head thinking about potential issues that you might be running into. And this is no different. Potential race conditions, you might have out of order data retrieval. So you send back calls back to the server and they come back in a different sequence from which you initiated or made the calls. And then user interaction inconsistencies. If people are clicking on one thing and you respond later than a subsequent call they made by clicking on something else, you can come up with some sort of odd behaviors. So these are things you want to keep in mind as you introduce Ajax techniques into your applications. So one of the things that does help with a lot of these issues is bringing a library into the picture. So the demo I showed earlier was not using any libraries. It was just using the native support of browsers for asynchronous callbacks using the XML HTTP request object. But there are a number of kits out there, a number of libraries you can use to take over that low-level stuff and sort of let you focus more on just the application development. There's one put out there by Google. There's one called Direct Web Remoting. There are even a couple .NET specific frameworks that are not produced by Microsoft that you might poke around with and find interesting. But of course, what we're here to talk about is the ASP.NET Ajax framework, and that's what the rest of this module and this course is going to focus on.